everybody. I'm so excited that you could find us today because we had a change in link about 3 minutes before the meeting started. So you are all super tech savvy. I really appreciate that. And this is an exhibit that is supported by Citizens Bank and the Lunch Bunch, and specifically Bill and Jane Siebler. And then there is one more, and the Howland, of course, the Howland Fund from the Art Center itself, named after Ruth and Jim Howland, who have been great supporters of the arts. We have a couple of visitors in, and I'm glad to see you. You can listen in, you can ignore us. I do apologize that it's a little bit darker because of the glare of our Zoom thing.
Oh, you're doing a Zoom?
We're doing a Zoom, but you're an audience, so yeah.
Sounds good.
So this is an exhibit where we had about 200 people participating, and that is the same number as we've had in past years, which I thought was very exciting in the current COVID restrictions deal. We also hung it very differently by categories that are organized by subject. And it's a fairly subtle change, but it made several things much easier to deal with, and it was needed for logistics. In previous year, there was just one afternoon that everybody could come in and it was craziness and we just went for it. But with COVID, there is not that kind of attitude possible. So we changed it, but we still made it possible. So 200 people, and I invited 3 only artists to come here. But before I say that, we're going to very shortly mark everybody that is a supporting member of the Art Center. And I think all of you are, but if you are not, you can look for these 2 forms. I don't know if you can see them. And become a member. And then you have the satisfaction of helping us bring the arts to Corvallis in all kinds of ways. Another thing we have new this year is an award specifically for those members. And you can take part of getting that award if you're in the show. And a member, but you still can become a member through March 27. The award for that special membership prize is being the curator in the Corinne Woodman Gallery in December of 2021. And when I say you are the curator, it means you can show your own work, show your family's work, show your kids' work, show work by friends that you think do good work and need an exhibit in the Corinne Woodman Gallery. So it's really an opportunity to share with us what you feel we should be showing. That is a tongue catcher.
That's exciting.
So I think it's a very exciting award. It's sort of experimental. This is the year of the experiments, after all. And then currently you can still vote for the People's Choice Award with a little tag. And the award for that is being on next year's a postcard. And here we see last year's winner, which was Judith Sanders, and a view of Rome. If you, I don't know, the glare makes it. So anyway, funnily enough, Judy's piece that is in the show this year hangs almost at the same place, but I assure you it is a different work. So today we're going to talk with 3 people, and then after that I would like to invite artists in the audience to say 1 or 2 or 3 things about their work. I've only 3 artists because logistics. Anyway, I'm going to introduce them now. It is Lil Aarons, C. Lil Aarons, who is waving, and Claire Craig, who was also waving, and Claire, you're muted. And last but not least, Gail Everett, who's waving there. And we created a mini exhibit here. And hopefully you can see that. My view is everybody now. And so this is Lil's work. And we made a black background. This is Anne Claire's work. And the big thing in the middle or on the side is red. And it's Gail Everett's work. She calls it red, but I already told her, I think it is a Larry. But anyway. It is the year of the bull. So, Gail, if I can start with you.
Okay.
How many, I would like to know from all of you, how many times roughly have you participated in the Howland Open and why?
So I started participating in 2006. I was out of art school by that point, and I've probably participated on and off for 12 years, 13 years. And I think it's an amazing opportunity for anyone and everyone, because you get artists from, 4 years up to 94 years. So how awesome is that? So community, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing.
Yeah. Yeah. What's your main medium?
Ooh, well, currently I am, it's like, well, what are we going to pick? Right now I'm playing in wool, which I started on a project back in 2016 to try to figure out how to process a fleece all the way through till something. And so in 2019, I learned how to spin, and I also learned felting. And felting has been primarily on YouTube. I've done one little class. I tried to get into a class with an amazing artist last year, but of course everything was canceled. So I'm still waiting for that. But yeah, so it's been a really short time period with felt, and it's been fun. You get all sorts of fun, dangerous tools where, I've got felting needles that have barbs on them, and you stab the wool, and it's this whole additive process to get to where you want.
You cannot take it into a plane.
No.
Like a little scrapbook.
And you want to have your wits about you, because it's really easy to stab yourself.
Did you needle felt the whole thing?
Yes.
The whole Red or Larry or
Yep.
George
Yep.
or whoever
She
he
is.
is?
She is solid needle felt. There is.
Wow.
I tried she is composed of about 3.5 pounds of core wool. The majority of that is processed by me. So I've washed it multiple times. I've actually had it out in the backyard fermenting in a bath. And yeah, so there is a very small portion of foam core in the middle, but I found that I actually don't like using that. So on the next head, which is going to be a tiger, I won't be doing that. I'll be just needle felting him or her. We'll see what it turns out to be, into a solid
We'll
mass.
get into that a little bit later. I want to
Right.
hear from the other artists what their experience with the Howland Open was. Lil, this is not the first time that you have a work in it.
No.
So how many times have you participated and why?
Oh, gosh. I have been participating nearly every year since we moved here in 1988. So I think about 30 times. And when I first walked into the art center, I think the community show was happening. And I was just so amazed by the show and the whole concept of the show. And I was so impressed by the quality, by the talent in this town. And I just love the fact that the kids were on the walls too. And it was so amazing that it's this crazy quilt effect that no matter what is in the show, when it's all together, it all looks just gorgeous together. It's so fascinating to me. Yeah.
And Claire, how do you have even helped setting it up?
Yeah. Yeah, that was more fun than anything. Help setting it up. It's mad, but it's fun. I've done ceramic arts for years. I haven't been doing it for several years now, but I probably, I don't know, participated maybe 10 times. And I like everyone said, I love the show. I love the kid art. I love the variety. It's truly amazing.
It's definitely the show that people name as our best show. And I always say, well, I wouldn't necessarily say that, but it's one of our most important shows. And I think definitely a signature show of the Art Center and what we hope art would be for other people. We heard a little bit from Gail about her technique and where she learned it. But, and Claire, you mentioned that you are primarily, or were primarily, a ceramic artist. But when I read the tag of yours, this says tea bags. So tell us a little bit about what this sculpture was made out of and how you got this together.
Well, my tools are very simple. I have twigs from my yard, and then the used tea bags.
They have to be used.
Well, if you want them to be pretty, I mean, they have a certain amount of things that happen just because of the staining of the tea. And I don't know. I don't have unused tea bags, so I don't know. I use matte medium as the glue, and waxed thread. That's it. And I just start by forming the twigs, and then I begin to add what I feel is needed with the wax thread, and then I overlay the tea bags in various ways. Sometimes I write on it. I've done some that I've written on. And I have always loved finding things and putting them together. I even used wood for my ceramic work, with my ceramic work. So it's just an obsession for me to find objects and put them together. So tea bags, yeah, use tea bags that.
Yeah, one morning you woke up and said, tea bags, this is what where did you pick this up?
Well, I saw some things in mixed media on YouTube where they were gluing tea bags to mixed media art. And I saw the form of a boat when I was, sorry. When I was playing with the twigs.
Okay, okay.
So that's kind of where it started. I saw that image and then I began to think, well, what can I use? Tissue paper is a little bit too hard to work with. And so the tea bags are stronger. So I played with that. So that's it.
Yeah, I usually throw my 3 tea bags away as soon as possible because I think they're aesthetically so unappealing.
Oh my gosh, I think they're wonderful.
Because they're this wet blob of stuff. And I can't even drink a cup of tea with the tea bag next to it. It's just not going to happen.
Well, you must hate that piece then.
So how did you, oh, you saw it somewhere. Yeah. And
I saw the tea bags used in mixed media.
yeah, both you and Gail actually mentioned YouTube.
Yep.
What would contemporary artists do without YouTube?
I don't know, especially now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you just pick up little things and then they're planted there someplace and then something else comes along and you
So,
begin to mix them.
Gail, you started with this YouTube name dropping. So
Yeah.
how did YouTube for you?
I mean, for me, I use YouTube a lot in the studio just as like a background thing that's happening. So I watch a lot of videos on other artists that are working, not in the field of wool at all. So I watch a lot of documentaries and things like that. But for right now, I mean, there's this one artist that I really want to take a class from, and I was signed up to take a class from him, but COVID, I'm still waiting for that class.
Yeah, yeah. I want to make a short interruption. I'm noticing that in the audience, there are quite a few people from the lunch bunch. And I would like it if the lunch bunch is waving right now. Please wave to the screen, lunch bunch. You too, Bill. I would really like to thank you for participating one by one in this show, but supporting it. And it's so important. The people who are going to come to our show will see that totally fun a watercolor of all of you on the people's wall. And so if you come, make a bow and think of how individual artists or people can support the Art Center too. So now I would like to hear from Lil, who is really, I would say, Lil, your main medium is writing.
Well, I wrote down paper. So
Okay.
writing used to be done on paper.
That is true. Even the writing has to do in the old days, I'm sort of showing my age here. Even writing has to do with paper. I
But
want
you're
to
right, you're right, Hester,
audience-
in that I
Am
teach
I on?
and so I do a lot with writing. And when I get a deadline from the art center is when I do art.
Bill, you had a question.
What?
I think, Bill, you're muted. You're muted, Bill.
Oh, Bill, not Lil. Okay.
Bill. See,
There we
yes,
go.
yeah. You
Wrong
had a
button.
question, I think.
No, I had really a comment, listening to the artists on the panel. I agree with almost everything that was said. It's about art community and the people within it. When I came here in '63, I rapidly realized that it was a community as far as art, and it's gotten only better and better and better. And it's the artists here are close enough that we can get to know them personally and become part of our lives. And so I might have breakfast with Lee Kitzman bowls, might have dinner with Cynthia Spencer plates, or with Nina Bemmett bowls. It just goes on and on. Go down the stairs, I turn on my Gail Everett lamp. And I've gone over the years to see what happens with different artists and the mediums they work in. It's a real pleasure to be a part of it and support it.
Yeah. Thanks, Bill. That is a good way to live.
Yeah.
And it's supporting artists, but it's supporting your own well-being as well. Back to Lil. Lil, paper. And I wanted to show the audience that this is,
I love it.
of course, kinetic.
So
We made a
fabulous.
black background so you could see it a little bit. Let me put this away for a moment. So,
I'm glad to see it's still functioning.
oh yeah.
Yeah, that's impressive.
And of course you can open it. And in there is,
It's the ghost in the machine.
and then it closes again. So you said paper was your medium.
Yes, maybe that's my main
So
medium.
when I see this, I'm thinking, what the heck? You know,
Really?
thinking, what, how did you make it? Let's start with the easy question. How?
Okay. How? You mean how I made this particular piece?
Yeah.
Yeah. Since it was a prototype, I used just graph paper to draw on and cut out for all the paper stuff. The wooden part, that's just a stand. It's not part of the sculpture. Just something to grip while you turn the hand crank. And then since graph paper is white, the title suggested itself of the ghost in the machine.
Because ghosts are white, we all know that.
So it's just, it's graph paper that I cut so it would fold into a cube. And then I added more paper. And one of the things I love about paper, absolutely love about paper, when you work on it in the scale I do, there's no gravity. Gravity has no effect on the paper. So all those curly cues and everything, they just stay like that. And to make the curly cues, all I did was pull my thumb along it, just like you do for gift wrap ribbon.
Right.
And they just curl. Yeah.
Very advanced, complicated technique. But what made you think of making a cube that you can open and tubes with curly cues out of it? And what was your thought about what you were going to make?
I'm so glad you asked, because I've been wanting to work kinetic interactive beyond opening drawers. And I noticed that these little music boxes, without being inside a music box, they have a little hand crank and they create music. And so I thought, well, I want to do that someday. So that piece is still to do because this is not musical. But as far as which one to make using a hand crank, came from my long time ago. I'm 70 now, so I'm feeling the desire to recreate the sculptures I did in the 1970s.
Wow.
Had to leave behind because they were just too big to fit in a backpack and take across country, you know. So it had been in my mind, this particular one had been in my mind for quite a while. And the original was completely corrugated cardboard, no tape or glue. And the hand crank was not functional, it was just for looks. And, you know, it was like 3 feet long, even though the cube itself was only 12 by 12, it was just 3 feet long, so just too big.
Wow.
So it's an opportunity for me to recreate that piece and add the kinetic and interactive part that I just love to play with. And the reason why it opens up is because I needed access to the gears inside. And after I did that, and I put the nifty magnet closure that I love, so it snaps shut, it suddenly occurred to me, oh, this is called the Ghost in the Machine. I could put a ghost in there. And I just have, you know, on the tab, I make it for everybody to pull, not just me. So that's how that all happened.
Yeah. I would like to circle back to Gail and continue a little bit about her technique of Larry.
You're going to force that one on me, aren't you?
Larry Red. How's that? It's a compromise. So you told us a little bit about how. So it has a core, but for the rest, it's felted on fermented felts, on fermented wool. Really?
Yes.
Mildewy
Yep.
wool?
Why?
Why? So as I've been learning more about wool, I've been trying to figure out ways to save water, because processing wool is labor intensive and it's water intensive. And if you can put a wool into a bath and basically let microbes break down all the nasty mud and everything else inside the wool, because sheep's wool is stinky and nasty, and they rub against trees, and so they've got bark and they've got, you know, moss and all these things, poop, you know, everything. And to clean a fleece, if you can just like put it out and let nature kind of take care of it for a little while, when you pull it out of the vat, it stinks. It has pink bacteria growing in it. It's just a mess. But then you put it through a couple scours with really hot water and some really good eco-friendly soap, and it comes out pretty clean. All the pink disappears. It's amazing.
So speaking about color, did you dye this, or is this the color of your sheep?
So the top coat is actually wool that I purchased from Maryland. It's a company, it's called Serafina Fiber Arts, and they actually make, this is the one company that makes the nicest top quality coating sorts of wool that you can use for projects. And they kind of specialize in doing felted animals. So they have a really good understanding of, you know, how to attach things. And I actually talked with I emailed the lady because I was in a rush to get the wool. And this is not something that I have on stock, this particular type of top coat. So I did a rush order and I just ordered a whole bunch and I didn't care about shipping and it all came and now I have a lot of leftover. But
I encourage people to come to the exhibit itself because the different textures of the fur of the bull is different on his nose than it is around his eyes and where it go and his ears, and it probably doesn't show well enough on the image. So is this the biggest project that you've ever done?
in felt, yes.
Last year, Gail had a rat because it was the year of the rat.
Yes.
Oh,
So-
she's so clever.
So
How
this was
to
the year of the
make a-
rat.
How to
your-
make a rat look cute. Not sure how I think about that. So
How are your fingers? That's a
I-
lot of needle felting.
It's a lot. That's why I use the big one. That way I can just stab the heck out of it. So it still puts a lot of wear and tear on my body, and I have arthritis, and so there's benefits to doing needle felting because it's actually a really lightweight product when you get done
Right.
with everything. As opposed to doing clay, which I've thought about going back into doing sculptural stuff in clay, but it's like, holy cow, that is so much weight. And it's such a hard thing for your body. So felt seems to be the way to go right now.
how did you get that difference between the eyes and
So it's really just different types of wool. And when you have blends of like alpaca and merino and some other really 16 micron types of wool, it makes them so smooth and they're just so soft to touch. The core wool that I use, it's about 32, 34 micron. Basically, it's got a lot of kinkiness. It makes for sweaters that are a little bit itchier. So it makes great felt.
yeah. And so we mentioned it was the year of the bull. How did you decide on using the Howland Open as your annual year of the whatever it is animal to make them? And are they all big? I mean, the rat was seriously bigger than life size.
Yeah.
Life size, maybe.
It's triple, quadruple the rat size. I don't know. The bull is closer to life size. And I basically have just decided that I was going to do the full Zodiac series, and it would be nice to get them all done by the end of the year because I have more energy, but I don't think I'm going to even push for that at this point.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if the whole cycle actually is all animals or if there's something else.
Oh, you get snakes. There's a snake. But yeah, they're all animals in the Chinese zodiac cycle. It's all creatures.
So, and Claire, I want to ask you a little bit about, you saw the shape of the boats in the twigs.
Yes.
How do you develop an idea to work with, and is this your first tea bag project? And is it your last tea bag project? How are you going to go about?
It's not my last. It started when I went to the coast and found
Oh, yeah.
this basically it was seaweed and yeah, stuff from, and that's all I used is stuff I found at the coast. And then I've been interested in boats for a while anyhow. And so I just started playing with twigs from my yard and used tea bags. Sometimes I don't know where these things come from.
I remember Gail making something like this, but she used guts. I think
Yeah.
I've done,
I
yeah,
don't
I've used gut.
They're probably less smelly than
Less smelly for sure.
So one thing I would like to suggest, just to Anne Claire, you should look into a product called methyl cellulose.
Okay.
And I can actually give you some because I have oodles
Oh,
of it.
that'd be
But
wonderful.
it's a great joining mechanism for paper, and then you can do like encaustics on top of it and all sorts of things.
Wow. That
So
sounds wonderful.
options.
Yay!
Sorry.
Oh, Gail.
I have an option for you that I've done needle felting, and I used old pure wool sweaters that had been shrunk as the interior. And they were, yeah, that was yeah.
That's a
worked
good
well.
idea.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I wanted to ask Lil, she mentioned the word prototype, which implies that she's going to make more of these. And you, sorry about that. It's dusty inside of my, so you mentioned this is a prototype and that's why you used a white graph paper. And here I was thinking that you moved from colored little figurines. Well, anyway, what are your thoughts when you say prototype and the choices of your materials? Because I think the curly cues are really effective in this white, especially if you can manage a black or dark background.
Well, the reason why it is a prototype is because I didn't have much time to spend doing something really complicated and choosing colors and all like that. And so to myself, calling it a prototype relieved a lot of stress, you know, right? And the graph paper eliminated any need to measure and to draw lines to cut, right? So it was just super and fast. And it is so I might not make another, I doubt I'll make another one exactly like this one. But it is the first in a series of hand cranks hallucinating. So I plan to do a lot more with hand cranks and more complex. This is a super, super simple hand crank thing. On the inside is just one vertical wheel underneath a horizontal wheel. And so when you turn the crank, it turns this wheel, which then turns the wheel above it. And that's all it is. But I would love to explore more gears and that kind of thing. And so Lego is actually on the inside of this. My original concept would be to make the entirely out of paper, but then I realized, well, that's not necessary because it's covered in paper. Anyway, the sky's the limit with that. That's just, by the way, my dressers with the drawers were part of a series I call Dressers Dreaming. And so this continues that idea also with hand cranks hallucinating.
So of the three artists that I invited to talk, is there something you would want to say about your work, this particular work that hasn't come up yet?
Who, Hester?
Any of the three of you.
Oh, well, yeah, I do. The question about meaning. And my work has, well, my mini dioramas do tell stories. As you pointed out, I didn't even think about that consciously, that my mini dioramas have a narrative thing going, so there's meaning there. But my sculptures, they don't have any meaning. They're just to play with their purpose. They have purpose. And the purpose is to make me chuckle. And watching other people interact with it and chuckling just gives me great delight.
Uh-huh. And Claire, is there something that we didn't address that you would like to mention?
It's tedious. I can't do it for very long, and it's tedious enough that I don't quite get lost where time leaves me. So that's all.
Gail, is there anything, I'm also looking at the chat, so there. Gail, is there something that you would want to mention that we haven't really addressed here?
I think the only other thing that I would say is the whole zodiac lunar new year sculptures are kind of based on what artist Ai Weiwei, Chinese artist, he did a whole series of these zodiac heads, and in 2018 they were actually in Eugene and I missed them. They were there for like 8 months or something, and I missed them, and I would like still kick myself for missing it. So this is my own little homage to Ai Weiwei's work.
Okay. I would like to ask artists in the audience to invite them if they would want to mention something about their work. And I also would like to encourage people to ask questions. I should have mentioned that before. Please do. I can see only half of you. So sticking up your hand is not going to work super well. So is there anybody of the lunch bunch, for instance, who would like to say something about their work? And before you start talking, demute. Rick, could you say something about the watercolor of the lunch bunch? No, he could not. Vince, unmute yourself.
Rip was muted. Are you
Oh.
are you not muted now, Rip?
I can't see everybody at the same time, so. Oh, yeah, Rip is demuted now. So could you tell us, Rip, could you tell us a little bit about that wonderful watercolor?
Sure. Can you hear me now? Okay, good. So let's see. I'm sort of new to watercolor, and this was sort of, I'm just sort of learning. And this was sort of the first one of my portrait series that I was willing to show. And first, let me say that I think how the Howland works for me, and I think works for everyone, is it's when you do a piece, you really don't know how finished or good it is, even if it's framed. But if it's on a wall in a gallery, you can go, oh yeah, this belongs here. Or you can go, oh yeah, I need to do this or that, right? You can kind of get whether or not it's just cathartic for you or if it sort of reads to other people. And you don't really know that until it's on the wall.
Wow.
And I think the Howland does that wonderfully, right? So that whether you're an amateur artist, that's the wrong word, whether you're an artist who works a few hours a week or an artist who works full time at it, it's the same. You get to put it on the wall and you get to realize what its value is in in a better way. So I love Howland for that. And this is my first year.
Okay. And
That's great.
I have a question here by Court.
Sure.
Court Smith, but you have to unmute yourself.
I was just going to mention that you can get the moderator's attention by going over to the reactions and put raise your hand. And then your hand is up there and you can get called on eventually. And also an easy way to unmute is to press your space bar. So that's another little trick you might like.
Oh, I didn't know that. Cool.
Fancy.
Well, the moderator has to pay attention to the hands, so the moderator had to be alerted that there was somebody with the hand up. So is there another artist who would like to mention? And Rip, welcome to the Howland Open. I hope this is not the last time that you're in there. It is, I would say, a really fun experience. Does anybody else of the lunch bunch wants to say one or two things about their work and why they felt that they needed to support this exhibit? Bill has already explained how art enriches his life, but what does anybody of you, how did you come to support this exhibit? Lunch bunch. Yeah, Vince. Demute. Yes.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I was actually a friend of Jim Howland's. He and I actually worked together to start the whole project of the Madison Street Task Force and the riverfront. And I know how much this exhibit meant to him and to Ruth. And they left it as a legacy for all of us. I've participated about 6 or 8 times. And one of the reasons why the Lunch Bunch supported was because of Bill Siebler, who brought to us the attention that this would be a good thing to support. So we did. And all I know is that Bill's marbles. I mean, what a great bunch of marbles you have in your head. Yeah, they're in the show. And really one of my favorite pieces in the show is Anne Claire's boats.
Oh, thank you.
I think they're really wonderful. And then
Yeah,
I was just happy to be hung on the same wall with Rich Bergman too. So in proximity to him. So
Rich, do you
thank
want
you
to say
guys.
something about, thanks, Vince. Do you want to say something about your work?
Well, I hung it next to Vince's on purpose. Hanging that wall. No, that piece is from a body of work I started with an infrared camera, staring up at the skies and taking coronavirus walks around the neighborhood, and realizing that the infrared makes the cirrus cloud patterns, which are the highest cloud patterns in the sky, ice crystal clouds. It really sets them off against the sky much more dramatically than a regular color or black and white camera would do. And so patterns became much more obvious. And I even joined the Cloud Appreciation Society. I got my membership badge in the mail a couple of days ago.
There is a society for everything. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yes.
I love it. The more appreciation societies there are, the better, I would say, because it shows a positive outlook on life. Well, is there anybody else who wants to elaborate on their piece? This is your chance.
Hester, can I ask you a question first? I wanted to ask you something about this show. This is the first one, I think, that's been by category, hung by category and by genre of the art. And I was curious, did that make it easier to hang?
Yes.
I thought you.
It was originally thought of optimistically, if we make enough categories, the group of winners for a particular category can be small enough so that we can meet in person. Not sure if that is going to be possible, maybe. Then it was also because we had this staggered bringing in things, it was easier to organize. So it had to do a lot with logistics. And it was a way that we could organize it nicely if we had 50 pieces total or 20 pieces total, and still have utilize each and every wall by creating, sort of medallions of pieces. But as time progressed, we realized, or as people signed up, we realized that it was going to be as dense as in past years, and it is. But there's a little bit of organization in hanging it by category. It explains maybe a little bit better why jurors picked a particular piece as an award winner, because you can compare it better. All the animals are together. So yeah, this sheep is indeed, compared to all the other animals, the best sheep there is. And so that was a reason. And I didn't want to do it by medium or age group, because I still felt that we needed that quilt-like idea somebody mentioned, where all kinds of stuff on one wall is happening, as opposed to all the black and white photographs together.
Yeah.
Or all the, because we thought about organizing it by color as well. But I should actually ask all of you if you liked it or not. Sharon, you have a hand up.
I like it very much, and I would like to thank everyone for participating in this talk. It is just so great to be among artists, albeit virtually. And earlier, as you wanted to say anything, our own choice of our own. This is my first time entering the Howland, even though I've been aware of it since childhood. And I wanted to participate this year to be part of the community. I miss my sense of community, being in person with other artists, and this gave me some of that sense of community. And when I was deciding which piece to put in, I asked my teenage boys what they thought, and they thought that the one with the best sense of humor would be good, so that people could be cheered up at this time. And so it's blue cows in a field with all sorts of little symbols in there, and I think that they absolutely made the right choice.
Okay. Cynthia, you have your hand up.
So I was just going to invite Jerry Bartholomew to talk a little bit about her glass piece. It is so complex, and I know a little bit about it because I'm in a critique group with her, but I think if once people hear what she has to go through to get that, it will amaze everybody. Caught her off guard.
Jerry, try tapping your window.
Well, in the meantime, while she's working on that, I noticed that Kimberly Long had her hand up earlier. Kim? We have a technology breakdown.
Yeah.
There we go.
There she
A
is.
message had started, had covered up my unmute button. Sorry, I'm in my studio because I have a piece of glass that isn't cooperating time-wise. But yeah, to answer Cynthia's question, I work in glass. Here's my studio. Here's a cat that shouldn't be on there. And the piece that I put in the Howland is part of a series I'm working on this year that incorporates my science and my art. And the theme that I chose was the conceptual, because what I'm trying to do is work on the idea of abstracts, because they mean two very different things in science and art. In science, an abstract is your distillation of your manuscript into a short paragraph. And in art, I don't know how to explain an abstraction beyond that it's abstracted. So, so the piece that I put in there was actually images from a manuscript of mine that I abstracted by fusing and casting and slumping. So you have to look at it closely to see the science imagery, but it's there.
I couldn't figure it out how you did that at all.
Yeah, it's about a 4 or 5 step fusing process.
Wow.
It's called Graphic Swim, and I did take a workshop on how to do it and then have been modifying it for my use.
Wow, it's great.
So Cynthia, do you still have a hand up, or is that, okay. Well, thanks, Jerry. People really should come and look at it, because I can put it inside of the camera, but it doesn't really do its justice. So I would like to go to the last question for the artist that I invited. And if anybody wants to jump in, please feel free to do that. If money and space was not an issue, what artwork would you like to own? And that owning is sort of important, because owning an art piece means a certain amount of commitment to that artwork. You can like something, but not necessarily want to have it around you. But owning it means you have to own up to it. So who would like to start with that?
I'll start. I want to own a copy of this bronze sculpture that's in front of the Art Center. What is it, an alligator on stilts?
Oh, yeah.
That's one of the first things I saw in Corvallis when I moved here in 1988. And it really made it I just think it's so wonderful. It's just, but I don't want to take it away from where it is, but it's bronze. So there must be a way to make another one.
Helzer in Eugene. Give him a ring and he will be gladly making one for you, I'm sure. I appreciate the sentiment that you don't want to take it away, but you owning it mean that in this context, where this is not the real world after all. Gail, do you have something that you would like to have around you?
I would actually like to own a Frank Lloyd Wright house, the Falling Waters house in Pennsylvania, because it is such an amazing structure, and with the river going underneath it, and that would be, I mean, that's artwork right there. It's architecture. I want to surround myself in that.
That's great.
So incorrect. It destroyed that stream for other people.
I know.
Yeah.
know.
Um, I like the idea, though. And within his houses, I would say that's an excellent choice, Gail. What made you pick that?
You know, I can't see myself really attaching like any of the really big artworks out there. I like to look at them, but there's nothing that I'd really want to bring into my house. I like to
Okay.
go visit them in museums, but to
Oh.
actually live in a house that was its own artwork, there you go.
That's
Okay.
great.
And Claire?
Well, I am a wannabe abstract painter. It's not working so far. So right now, I really love Brian Rutenberg's work. And you YouTube lovers, he is does amazingly interesting YouTube videos. This is his name, Brian Rutenberg.
Okay, write it down.
Okay.
That's what I'm going to do. Is there anybody else who would like to throw out Ken?
Yes, you asked the question about the lunch bunch, and I've been associated with these guys for a few years now, and it's been a pleasure and a learning experience, and it's fun to be surrounded by such a talented and interesting group of guys. And I want to thank Bill for getting us rounded up to help with this year's event. And I wanted to tell you about my circle. I have a circle that I painted that started out as an idea that Earl Newman and I were talking about, which was, and I'll back up for a second. I own the Color Wheel Company, so I have a vested interest in the colors of the color wheel. And Earl and I were talking about whether or not you could go to Miller Paint or Sherwin-Williams and find all the colors on my color wheel without having them mixed. And so we did. And in subsequent work that Earl did with circles, he used the colors on the edges of his. And I started doing permutations of Pennsylvania Dutch hex art, barn art. And I started out by playing with all the colors we found at Miller Paint. And so that's why I did that. And the rest of the gentlemen in our lunch group were quite encouraging for me to go ahead and do that, because my initial contribution was that I owned the Color Wheel Company and really wasn't doing art. So thank you, gentlemen. And it's a pleasure. And thank you for having us. And it's a great show. I do like the thematic hanging, by the way. I thought that was pretty cool. So anyway, thank you. And thank you for letting me participate. Any questions? If by any chance anybody wants to actually take a tour of where we make color wheels, you can contact me through the Art Center as well.
Wow.
Or any other way you'd like to. Be happy to walk you through. And we're right there.
Well,
Yeah.
that's a great invitation.
Yeah.
So be aware of that. The color wheel in Philomath, used all over the nation or the world.
The world, amazingly, the world, right out of Philomath.
Yep.
Wow.
You knew.
Not me.
So we've come to the end of another lunchbox at home, and who knows, maybe next year we will be doing it in person again. We will keep the different categories, so think about that. The other exciting news that I have is that we are open. That alone is fantastic, and I would like to commend the leadership of the Art Center of making that happen. And by next week, we're adding another day. So we're going to be open from Wednesday through Saturday.
Oh, great.
From noon to 5.
Yay.
It's gonna be great to meet in person again, but so I hope I'm not in Yahats next time.
Yeah.
we
I-
would have a silver lining here. The fact that we are doing this by Zoom made it possible for you to be here
Yes.
on the meeting today. So that would be great.
I'd just like to say, I'd like to nominate Hester for, what is that? Best citizen to contribute to the arts. She's amazing. She does so
Okay.
much.
Good idea.
Gotta be quick. It is my job, and I cannot tell you how much fun I've had and how gratifying it has been or is. And I would also have to say, and Claire, as you know, you have been on the exhibition committee, and there are a couple of other exhibition committee members there, that this is not a one-person job. This is a 1 to 14 people person job.
Yeah, right.
Without the exhibition committee, there is no exhibition program that for me. And it is really a collaboration, and these people are supremely wonderful. So, having said that, the sun, I think, is still shining. The weeds are growing. The bulbs are coming up. So I wish you a wonderful day and week. And do come and vote for your People's Choice Award. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Hester.
Hester.